Hello everybody and welcome back to this tutorial, and right now we're going to talk a little bit more about strings. Now, we did talk about them before in the basics of Python 3 programming, and also in the lists we mentioned the strings here and there. We said how they can actually be used, and some of the functions that actually apply to the lists also apply to the strings, such as for example the defining of each element. Now you can define each element of string as well as define each element of the list itself. Now those are some of the similarities, but right now what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at different functions and useful things you need to know when you are dealing with strings. So open up your idle. Still, we're not going to code anything yet. We're still learning, and the more we learn, the better our programs will be later on. So as I said, let's talk a little bit more about strings. So we learned in the beginning that the strings start and end with a single quote. So for example, if we have a string 1 to be equal, and then you use single quotes, and here you can just type hello. So string 1 is defined by these single quotes. But there is also a definition of strings with double quotes, so you don't really need to use a single quote to define a string. The actual string 2 equals to the same word, so hello, but right now let me just find where the double quotes are. Once again, need to change the keyboard. Should have done this at the Ubuntu machine, but doesn't even matter. You can use the double quotes as well and define hello. If you compare these two, string 2, pardon me, not equal, we want to use double equal, because remember, one equal is only assigning the value. You can see that they are true because they are the same actual value, so you can actually use both of these definitions to define a string. Okay, now one more thing that is useful about this is that you can actually use double quotes and single quotes whether or once you actually want to use a single quote in the string itself. So for example, if you have a string 3 and you try to use something like this, so let's say I am good today. And basically, if you can see right here, it will say invalid syntax if you try to use a quote inside the syntax itself, inside the string itself. As you can see, this first quote right here was closed by the second quote that we didn't really want to close it, but the Python 3 doesn't really know whether this quote belongs to the actual string itself or whether that quote is just a quote at the end of the string defining the string itself. So basically, in order to avoid this, you can just use string 3 equals and then use the double quotes and then I and then single quotes am good today. Dot and then double quotes at the end. And right now our string 3, if we print it to the screen, will have the actual quote right here, and we will no longer get the actual syntax error. So that is also another thing that is useful to know, and also another thing that the double and single quotes are used for. But if you, for example, want to use a single quotes for whatever reason, you can define a single quote in a string that Python will know that it belongs to the string with the backslash. So for example, string 3 once again will be equal, and right now we start with a single quote, I single quote am good today dot single quote. So this will give us a syntax error, but if you go right here and just add a backslash, you can see that the whole string turns green, saying that right now this is an entire string, and if you press here enter, your Python 3 will no longer give you an invalid syntax error as it did right here. So the backslash and then the actual quote right here will let the Python know that this string doesn't really mark the end of it. So that is also something you want to know. Of course, same thing with the double quotes. So you can use something like this, double quotes or single quotes, whatever you want. I and then slash and then double quotes am good today, even though this is not really how you would write it, but you can do it if you want to. Wherever you need the double quotes, you can implement it with the backslash and then the double quotes. Same with the single quotes as well. Now, if you wanted to, for example, tab a string or tab in a string, such as this one, you can do that by simply specifying string 4, for example, to be equal, and then open and close single quotes, and then backslash T, which stands for tabbing. And then you write hello. And you can see if we print string 4, you can see that the hello will have the backslash T right here. Now, this is not, let me just show you, so you can see it actually a little bit better. Maybe I should have showed this example instead. So hello, and then backslash T, world. Not word, but doesn't even matter, string 4. Let me just check something out. Yeah, okay, so I need to print it out in order to show it. As you can see right here, the string, now don't really mind right here that it says word instead of world, but doesn't even matter. You can see right here, once you print the string, even though we didn't add any space, the tab value will tab it for us. Therefore, we know each amount of space that is tabbed between two words. So for example, if you have string 5 equals to basically today, and then you want to add tab is, and then tab, and then tab, oops, backslash T. Today is a good backslash T, and then day, and then dot. And you define the end with a single quote, and you want to print the string 5. All of these actual words will have the same amount of space between each other. Okay, so that is also something useful to know. The next thing in strings is the backslash N, which basically stands for a new line of a string. So once you use the backslash N, it will let Python know that you want to go into the next line and continue the rest of the string. So for example, if we have a string 6 to be equal, and then we type here hello, backslash N, and then world. Not once again world. You can see if we print this string right here, that this string will actually be into lines. So it will not be one next to another. It will be hello, and then new line, and then world. Okay, so that is also another thing useful to know. And another thing, not so important, but if you want to use a slash in an actual Python string, you need to use double backslash in order to define it. So for example, string 7, if you wanted to actually use a slash in a string itself, you would just type here hello, and then 2 slashes, and then world. And then right now, if you print the string 7, it will have a backslash in it, as you can see right here. So the definition of this backslash is 2 backslashes. Okay, so really easy to remember. Now, in order to combine all of this, you can print something like this. So print, open double quotes, what is your name? And then you can use basically, let me just add the question mark, and then backslash N for the new line. Another actual question. So how old are you? Backslash N, backslash T, and basically, or pardon me, yeah, backslash N, backslash T, and then type something like I backslash single quote am 20 years old, exclamation mark. If you just type it, print it right here, you can see how it will print it out. So let's go over the string. What is your name? Then at the end, we only added the backslash N, which will just go into the next line. And right here, we have how old are you? Backslash N goes to the next line. So our cursor is right here. Then we added the backslash T, which will tab this next sentence in, as you can see right here. And then afterwards, it will print out I, backslash, and then single quote, which will be defined as a single quote in the string itself, and 20 years old. So those are some of the ways that we actually learned in this lesson that you can actually define in a string to make it look a little bit better. Now, there is also another thing that you should know is that you can actually define a multi-line string without all of this stuff. So you don't really need to add backslash N every time. In order to write a new line string, you can do simply something like this. So string 8 will be equal, And then instead of opening and closing single quotes or double quotes, just open 3 single quotes. Then type anything you want. So, hello there. My name is Adam. Press enter for new line. I am 20 years old. And I like to play football, for example. And then at the end of the string, close the 3 single quotes, and you can see it will not give you any error out, because the 3 open single quotes and 3 closed single quotes will define a new length string, or basically a multi-line string. So if you print string 8 right here, print it out, you can see it prints out everything as we typed it. Okay, so that is also really important thing to know. And also, as we saw before, we know that the actual strings can be selected, or the specific characters can be selected from a strings the same way that they are selected in the actual list as elements. So you can see right here, if you have a string that equals to hello, you can select the string character 0, or labeled as number 0, which will return H for us. String from 0 to third element, will return first 3 letters. The -1 index also works, which will return the last letter. And also you can use what we did in the lists before, which is from the beginning till the 3rd character, and also from the actual 3rd character till the end, for example, as you can see right here. So this is basically just a reminder that you can do the same with the strings that you did before with the actual lists. So basically that would be about it for this string lesson. We're going to continue with different functions that are used in strings in the next tutorial. So hope you enjoyed this lecture, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye!